So now that you've kind of had a chance to step away and process the year, what has this season been like for you, and what does it mean to you to have this program come so far in such a short amount of time?
Well, I guess having time to step back and process it, you know, I don't even look at it more as a year. It's kind of like a 4-year journey. I think that's where it begins when you see how far this program's come in 4 years, not just one. We definitely, when you look back, it wasn't in a straight line, ascending upward. There's definitely some bumps along the road and some huge step forwards and some minor steps back. I guess above anything, just so pleased to see these guys that took a leap of faith that started our program when there was nothing, and to see it rewarded with a conference championship is great to see for them.
This is really the first official football senior class. I mean, these guys helped start up the program, and they've kind of taken their lumps over the past few years to get to this point. But how special is this group of guys to you?
Well, I think every senior class is going to be special. The guys that stay in our program for 4 years, certainly you develop personal relationships with them as coaches, but in particular, as I said, these guys that were the pioneers that the locker room that we're sitting in right now doing this interview was an old weight room, I just think back and remember taking all of them through the Richards gym and showing them plans for a stadium, showing them locations for a stadium. Those plans changed, the locations changed, and to have to play off campus for 2 years and essentially not have a home game for your first 40 games of your I'm sorry, not 40 games, but 20 games of your college career. I think they've accomplished a lot, not just on the field, but off the field too. When I see our guys integrating all throughout the Barry community, there's a sense of pride with that, and not just the players. I mean, the coaches that have been here since the beginning, and the guys that have, I think we've had great continuity on our staff. As we're, driving around recruiting for 2017 guys, I think it's, we're moving forward, but it's also important to pause and take a look back.
Well, let's do just that and kind of look back at the season now a little bit. After the Hendricks win, which was kind of in the second half of the season, at the time they were ranked top 25. I shot you a text. I don't know if you remember this, but I shot you a text and congratulated you on that win because I knew how big that was for the program. And you responded and said that, yeah, this is the biggest win we've had in program history. Now, again, at the time Hendricks nationally ranked, you guys had to take the long bus ride out there to Conway, Arkansas. What did you learn about your team after that game for them to go out there and play the way that they did?
Yeah, well, that's why I think at the time, and I guess you can argue whether that is the best win in our program's history. I think it was important because, number one, we have a lot of respect for them. They're the defending conference champs. I think they were ranked 22 in the country at the time, and it's not an easy trip to make, to go on a bus 8.5 hours to Conway, Arkansas, to get in late Friday, to go through all the meetings, get up early Saturday morning and go play a game against a really, really good opponent, and to see us do well in all three phases, offense, defense, and special teams. I think that was a complete win for us against a very good opponent. As I was looking back, I think you can argue you can take a step back to the previous game against Chicago when we're down 14-0 at halftime. I really think starting in the second half of Chicago really was a turning point in our season. And if we didn't figure out a way to turn that around in the second half, I don't think we'd be sitting here talking about, a championship season if it wasn't for that. And that was really the turning point, I think.
And then you have to go up to center, and you're playing for at least a share of the conference title. What was that entire process like, the week leading up to that game, and then the game itself, knowing that you guys were playing for a conference title?
Well, I mean, it was funny because at the beginning of the week, I don't think a lot of our players really understood exactly what the scenario was. That regardless of what WashU did, if we took care of business, we'd earn at least a share of a conference championship. So, the first thing we had to do is explain to them exactly what we were playing for. But I mean, after that, it didn't matter unless we figured out a way to beat obviously a very good center program. I mean, when you look at the history of the SAA, and even slightly before that, over the last 4 or 5 years, I mean, center's been outstanding, and they've lost once at home in 4 years. So, we didn't dwell too much on, the what-if scenarios in the WashU and the playoffs and the conference championship because it didn't really matter if you didn't beat center.
And after the game, too, I was listening on the radio, and the WRGA sideline reporter, Peter Gunnan, kind of grabbed you right after the game was over, and obviously a lot of emotions there. But what was the aftermath of that game like with you and your guys still on the field and everybody hugging and taking pictures? What was that moment like?
I guess, I don't know, there's a lot of different emotions. I mean, I guess one of them is obviously, it's just, I guess there's just a lot of joy to be able to see these guys go out on top. I think you have to earn everything that you get in life, so it's not like you deserve anything. But, to see these guys, bounce back. I mean, a lot of these guys, especially, and I know we focus on the senior class, but I think, you look at the junior class too. It's not like they came in here and it was very easy too. Their first year we were 2-8, and so again, I didn't look at it as a 2016 year. I looked at it as a 3-4 year process, and first of all, I mean, I think. Forget about 9-1 and conference champions. I think it was a tremendous accomplishment for our program to beat center at center. So part of it was just proud of the way our guys competed against a very good center team and a very good center program. So there's a lot of emotion. So it wasn't just on the last 3 or 4 years, but I mean that game beating that team on their field. When they had a lot to play for too. If they would have won, they would have won an outright conference championship. So, and also proud of the way our guys battled back because we had the same scenario a year ago at our place and wasn't able to get it done. And our guys were waiting 365 days for that opportunity to present itself again. And we're fortunate it did. And, that's kind of what we talked about a little bit before the game is how many times you get this opportunity once, let alone 2 straight years.
And you've kind of touched on this already, but there's a lot of guys that made this program as successful as it was this year. But I want to highlight Mamadou specifically, who's the first Berry All-American in program history. At times this year, he looked unblockable. During the center game especially, he led the team to a program record 9 sacks and helped lock up a conference title. But what makes Mamadou the player that he is, and what do you see in him that made him so successful this year?
Well, I think there's a lot of factors. Number one, with him as an individual, he's tremendously unselfish. Watching him in practice, he practices the way he plays. We never had to ask him, hey, pick up your tempo in practice. I mean, he's a tremendously hard worker, tremendously unselfish. You can even look at it during certain parts of practice. I mean, he's helping his teammates and helping coach them too and giving them pointers. And so he's the consummate team player. Now, he's a tremendous athlete. I mean, he's 6'2", 230 pounds now, tremendously quick off the ball, long arms. When you teach him, when you tell him to do a specific drill, he does it right the first time, all the time. And that's a rare trait. So he has tremendous skill and tremendous work ethic individually. And I think he also benefits because I think we had one of the best defensive lines in the country. In particular, I think he benefits because, you got to decide how you want to block us defensively, because we got a guy on the other side that was a 3-time first team all conference performer, and Preston Stewart. Bernard Granville was all conference. So we have other guys around on the defensive front that contributes to his success as well.
For me, being a student back when the program first got started up, this season really feels like the culmination of 4 or 5 years of hard work that you and your staff have put into it. I mean, it's this season obviously with the SAA title and then a Coach of the Year honor for you as well. What is going to be your biggest takeaway from this year for you personally?
Well, I think, personally, I got a chance to really think about this, and I look back to the whole process before it started. When I knew Barry was starting up football, I was keeping an eye on it, being the defensive coordinator at LaGrange, and when I look back and I see, okay, there's 268 applicants for my job, and I think it goes to show that it's not on us that makes this happen. I mean, the good Lord, really blessed me with this opportunity. I don't think I was probably the best coach for the job. I don't even know how I got the job, but I think it goes to show when you have faith and realize that it's not on you, and the Lord put me here for a reason, put the rest of our staff here for a reason. You can't accomplish these things without the administration behind you. And when I look at from our upper administration in Herman Hall to our athletic administration, you can't accomplish these things. When you look around this locker room and the facilities that we have here at Richards and the weight room and then the stadium, all of that contributes in the recruiting process. Because if you don't have good players, you can't have great results. And we have a staff that works tremendously hard. We gel together. So everything was put in place for a reason, and I thank God for putting me here. Me and my family love Barry. We love what Barry stands for, and we've been able to recruit some student athletes here that fit the Barry mold, and I think that's why we've seen a lot of success, is that Barry attracts a certain type of student here, and we've been able to find guys that fit and guys that can play a little football too.